Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Networking and Beyond. And for this episode, you have a new host. I'm sure you will be tired of looking at the same host, and that's why I am here.
Excuse me, Rutu. What did you say again? Well, Rutuparna and I today are planning something really special. And this is not just a one-host episode, but it's a co-host episode where we're not only going to talk about Rutuparna, but also my story.
Yes. And all these days, we've been seeing Lalit on the other side. So this time, let us also listen to his story. And yes, I'm also very, very glad to be on your show. Whatever you like to call it as host, co-host, or anything. Okay.
Welcome, Rutuparna, and I'm really glad to have you on this place. And the good part about this is I love this switch. All the time I used to sit on your side of the couch today, and I wished I could attend one of these Networking and Beyond episodes where I could explain what I do and maybe share some of my stories.
Lovely. Can't wait to listen. So yes, Lalit, formally welcoming you to your own show. Welcome.
Thank you, Rutu.
Yes, Lalit, I'm very, very, very curious to actually know your story. Yes, we know what you are today. But yes, let us start from your childhood. Where did it all begin?
I think when you look at my childhood in perspective of anybody else's childhood, I think I've had a very good one. I'm the only kid in my family, so I've always been a pampered kid, especially when it comes to the attention that I've been given and the kind of gifts that I was given. It was always like that. But as I grew up, my parents, like any other parent, wanted the best for their child, and they ended up putting me to a school called Bishop Cottons. When I was in 7th grade, it was my geography and history exam, my social studies, and it was the first year where we were writing separate papers. It was also the first time I had failed in social studies. Everybody fails in science and mathematics. But I, the genius, had failed when I was in 7th grade for the first time in a geography class. And I felt absolutely terrible about failing, So that's the kind of kid that I was. And since then, I've consistently failed for the next 8 years.
No wonder you're a great friend of mine, because you have a company for someone who flunked in 7th.
Yeah?
In the same subject.
Okay. So what happened with you, Rutu? I mean, especially when I met you for the first time, I thought you were a straight up nerd. Like, you were like this teacher's charmer, this nerd who could just get along with everybody and anyone at any point of time. What's your story, Rutu?
Okay. So I did my schooling at Kumurans, and in my school, I had a very, very interesting, incident that happened. Somewhere in 8th or 7th, I don't remember actually. So somewhere in my 8th or 7th, somewhere at that particular point of time, my parents were called.
Okay.
And guess why my parents were called? My parents were called because my teacher actually told my parents that your son will not succeed. Right? So when my parents asked why, because they knew that I was a very silent and a very introvert kind of a person. So that is when my teachers actually told, this person never talks to anybody. Right? So if he doesn't talk, if he doesn't socialize, or if he is not able to express himself, his future becomes very, very, very difficult. So this is one kind of a complete opposite person that I was in my 7th. And yes, today, what you feel is basically I'm an extrovert and all of these things. But I actually feel I am both an introvert as well as an extrovert. And all of these things.
In combination.
And I'm sure, what we are today, and definitely about you also, what we were in our school days.
Yeah.
Right? It's about the journey. Yes, Lalit.
True.
So, also want to listen more. What happened next?
In my part of the story, what happened was, in Bishop Cottons, there are 5,000 kids. And every time we had class, we wanted to bunk class, right? But you can't bunk class in school. The only way you could do it was they would take you to the auditorium, or there'd be a program you'd sit and watch, and you get to spend time with your friends. So in Bishop Cottons, we had a lot of spelling bee, dramatics. We had various extracurricular and sport opportunities, for which that opportunity never reached me, but I got the opportunity to at least watch it, right? And if you won any of these competitions, there are 5,000 kids, and you would be treated like a superstar. right? Like literally, if you're walking, all the kids around you would be like, hey, this is the guy who won the dramatics competition, right? So the spotlight is automatically on you. I wanted to feel like that once because I was a very average student. I was failing in subjects, never recognized for anything, and was never given an opportunity. So there, I think, was that one question mark was, hey, can I go once on stage and feel as powerful as each of these kids are feeling? So that was my next step to thinking. And post that, I was changed to a state board school. And in state board school, most of the things went very easy in terms of studies. And now, rather than having 300, 400 people in one entire lot, I had about 60, 50 people to compete with in my own section. So this is where I got a lot of opportunities and I picked up my studies. And because I ended up getting 75% and nobody else in my family had gotten 75%, my father walked straight up to me and said, Lalit, you're becoming a doctor.
Okay, before you go to your college, I want to ask you, did you ever step on stage?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. But for everything apart from speaking, I went on stage to sing on my national day for singing the national anthem as a class group. Then I went on stage for a quiz competition a couple of times. I've gone on stage for one Rangoli and Pushpa Alankara competition in schools.
Oh, lovely.
So I've done all these things. I got opportunities, but wasn't what I wanted, you could say.
Awesome. Yes, coming to college days. Yes. Go ahead.
So I'll just tell you about this college part. Doing science was terrible. I was literally the outstanding student of the class, always out. And by the end of my first year, my parents told me like, listen, son, we don't have too much hopes on you. We know your great marks, will take you great places. So you tell me something that is achievable from your hand and let's stick to that plan. So I told, listen, first thing, I cannot achieve CET or I cannot achieve medicine. Like, can I do commerce? They said yes, but they had one condition. You have to get minimum 60%, at least first class, so that you protect our interest and our respect with the relatives. So that is what they had in mind.
Lovely. This is one of the major expectation that is there from every parent. No?
And this was until they call the turning point of 18.
Exactly.
Right? This was until then. What about you, Rutu? How were you in school and that college transition?
Okay, so when this particular incident happened, I was not that worried because my concentration was actually on sports. So I was a state and a national level table tennis player.
Oh, wow.
And I was representing my state, and most of my time used to be with practice of table tennis or attending tournaments across the state or travel to different places in the country. So when this particular incident happened, that is when my parents were called, I was not that bothered about it. So that is how I passed my school. But I would like to point one incident about school, just taking a reference of what you told. When you were talking about these competitions, stepping on stage and all of these things, trust me, even I had that interest. And with this interest, I had taken up one initiative, right? This initiative was people who had to give a speech in an assembly. People had to volunteer. So I had also volunteered, and according to whatever it is, luck, bad luck, whatever you like to call, I got an opportunity to talk about Martyrs Day on Martyrs Day. So I think it is on March 23rd, right? So Martyrs Day is what I had to talk about to a crowd of about 600 people. Till then, I never had the exposure of talking to 600 people. So I went on stage. Before that, I had prepared so much that I had by-hearted the entire speech. I went in front of my mom. So I told the entire speech. My mom told, yes, you'll succeed very well. Don't worry. Then I went to my headmistress. I told the entire speech. She's like, don't worry, you'll succeed. I went on stage. I wished good morning. And once I wished good morning, I received 600 plus good morning from the other side. Guess what happened? I shivered. Once I shivered, I forgot the entire speech. Then to my rescue, I had the speech in my pocket. So I opened the speech, I opened the paper, and when I was about to read, there was this gush of wind which just rushed through, and the paper also flew away. Thank God I could just say one sentence. Today is Martyrs Day. Thank you. And I just walked away. So that was one of the very bad incidents that was there. And that day I decided I'll never go on stage. But yes, I mean, it's so good that I'm in an interview with another speaker where, we can relate thoughts. This is the first time, I'm able to relate with these thoughts.
And I think that's also the inspiration behind the episode to be co-hosted rather than a one-side host, because we can bring in a lot of perspectives. And I think we've done a lot of programs together already and it goes along very well. So Moving on, Rutu, I want to know in terms of college, what happened? What subjects did you study? Was it the same? Did you pursue table tennis? What was the story in college?
So table tennis was always there. Like you told, turning point, right? The turning point of 10th and 12th is when I did not play table tennis. But apart from that, one good thing happened was Jain University. So once I was a part of Jain, they gave me a scholarship at Jain College to pursue my sports. So yes, nothing great.
I only felt they stole my money. Okay, go on.
So nothing great happened, but yes, I pursued my my PU in commerce, and along with that, I still continued to be an introvert. I was never the one who spoke to people, especially. Let this be this is not a secret anymore. But yes, especially when it came to talking to girls, I was very, very, very bad. So I don't have history of talking at all to girls when it comes to PUC. So yes, I was that much of a shy person, that much of an introverts person. And especially when it came to going on stages, I was never the one, right? So yes, it was mostly of table tennis and all of these things. Yeah. Good. Now it's my turn. What happened after your PU?
So PU, it was the day of reckoning. I got 56%, 2% lesser than my attendance in second PUC. I remember my mother, literally having an anticipation on that day saying, okay, my son's going to at least get 60. We've not set the bar too high for him. They're quite confident. 60 is achievable, right? Like, it's not too hard. I, the great, went to a browsing center, got my marks. I was super happy because I'd gotten 56. I had managed to pass mathematics even without studying for more than 50 marks. And I'd got 55 in mathematics. So very happy. Went back home. I opened the door. My mom looked at me and I looked at her, and that's it. I did not say a word again. In that telepathy, she knew I had not touched the mark. And believe me, she told me one statement that day. She said, Lalit, from now on, we don't have any expectations. You can do whatever you want, right? We don't have any expectations because you've not been able to match it. I don't know if she really intended it, but it was, I think, the biggest blessing I ever got in my life. Simply because the value of freedom is priceless, right? There's a beautiful book called Man's Search for Meaning. Right,
Viktor Franklin.
Viktor Franklin. So, if you've read that book, he talks about freedom in such a perspective. He says freedom is in the mind. It's not in who lets you do or who does not let you do. But when you're 18, freedom is actually in your parents' hand. It's not in your hand if from an Indian society perspective. So from there, everything that went uphill for me. Right. For example, I'll just give you perspective. 11th and 12th, I was spending so much time on science and studying all of that. But now when I went to commerce, I did not have to study. I could study last day and still score a good 65. Now, because I was studying last day, what would I do the rest of the time? The one thing that I truly loved, extracurricular activities. 11th and 12th had given me a small glimpse of how to be in the science forum team. In Jain College, you have science forum, cultural forum. I was a part of the science forum team, and it gave me that one little glimpse of what it could actually do. And in 11th and 12th, I did get about 5 to 6 opportunities which I could execute, and the results went in my favor, where I won a couple of competitions. And this led me to spend more time during my degree for extracurricular. Now, in retrospect, something magical happened even because of this. And through this process, while I was on the journey of doing extracurricular in my first year, I won about 4 competitions and I took part in about 64, 65 competitions. Few competitions that I won gave me immense amount of confidence. So what I did was I kept going from one place to another. Even though I was terrible, I kept speaking. In second year, I was participating in a contest in college. You know Dr. Rajdeep Manwani very well.
Yes.
Dr. Rajdeep Manwani has been a Toastmaster. And he was a judge for an event, along with which I had another teacher in 10th standard who was a Toastmaster. His name was Pawan RC. Now, both these people were the 2 people who got the word Toastmasters out into the blue, and I was able to hear it. I was very fascinated. And I was told to go see this Toastmasters meeting. I went into a Toastmasters meeting only to discover that people of all walks of life come there for one specific reason, to overcome the fear of speaking on a stage. I was so impressed. I was like, this is home. Like it was this Shah Rukh, it was like this Bollywood movie moment, everything in slow motion, bells ringing, music there, and you're almost teary-eyed, right? Like it was that moment because I knew I had made it. It was my temple. And over here, I met people of CEOs, bankers, people from the military, retired officers. I met people who are government servants, way more accomplished than what I was. I was just a 18-year-old kid, For 1.5 years, I lost every single competition, Rutu, there. But the magic to this about losing and failing was that when I went back to when I went back to college, in my second year, I barely lost a competition. Simply because I was competing against the best and I was getting my ass kicked. And right here in my second year, winning in college became very easy because everybody was my age. I was competing with people wiser, smarter, more knowledgeable. The game changed. The next penultimate step for me was this had to transition into something beautiful, right? So in my final year, I was named Student Council President in Jain College. One more thing that somehow, somewhere, I've been given a lot of leadership opportunities, or maybe you can say I've been working towards it. And I enjoy being a leader. I think I thrive best when I'm a leader and that kind of pressure is on me. My mom asked me a question. She said, Lalit, now I'm happy where you are, right? I was disappointed 3 years ago. I'm happy where you are. You're getting good marks. You're doing very well in extracurricular. You're getting so many awards. What are you going to do for yourself? Because college is going to end. I said, the most obvious way, I'm going to go work. She said, no, I don't want you to work. Oh, wow. She said, I don't want you to work because I know you are a very complacent fellow. If somehow you taste a little bit of money, maybe you'll start enjoying too much and you might not want to study again. I actually knew who I was by then. I had some amount of self-awareness. I said, no, let me go ahead and pursue my master's. And I applied in various universities and I got selected into University of Limerick, Ireland.
Let us cut there. I'll come to that point. But, there were a few very, very interesting points you stated, which I want to, learn more. For example, number one, you just spoke about freedom, right? So freedom you got at the age of 18. Treat this like a rapid fire question. But do you think freedom, yes, at the age of 18, when you get it, it's a lovely thing. Do you think if you get freedom before that, it's a good thing or not?
I think freedom is a beautiful thing. And here's why. The only reason freedom becomes a bad thing is because we are worried about the consequence of freedom. Right? What if my son misuses the freedom? Now, what's going to happen now? Let's take the worst case scenario. Your son might find a partner that you might not approve of when he is before 18. Your son might get into drugs. Your son might start smoking. Your son might start drinking alcohol. Or your son might start gambling if you have enough money. Apart from these 5 things, what is the worst possible outcome that is going to happen to your son? Now, I'm saying there's a difference when the father himself walks his son up to a bar table and says, do you want to have a taste of that beer? I swear to God, I'll tell you that son will never ever drink like a drunkard ever in his life. It's the true power of magic. But if the same father comes home and says, you should be in home 8 o'clock, before 8 o'clock, you cannot wear this kind of dress, you cannot go with those kind of people, I'm telling you, that will be the first person to drift away from the family. That person will be the first person to drift away from the family, first person to do something extremely cruel, extremely crooked, extremely unpleasant. I'm telling you, tasting bad things is a part of life. And how you taste it is in the matter of the parents then, right? I'm saying take your child till the bad danger spot. Show him what it is. And let him taste it. Then teach him a lesson. Because our education system has spoiled us. Pawan, my teacher, so beautifully says, the education system always teaches you the lesson and then tests you. But in life, they always test you and then you teach the lesson. So I'm telling you, test your child first. Then teach him the lesson. Don't teach him the lesson first. I think that's my answer.
That's a very beautiful point made. And secondly, which is the most important thing that I want to ask. You just told me that you, in Toastmasters or before that, you had attended a lot of competitions and there was, you're about 1.5 years where you continuously failed. I just want to ask you, and I just also want this to be a lesson to our listeners today. So every time you failed, what is that one thing that pushed you up to actually go for the next competition with the same or even more of a enthusiasm?
Honestly, I took failure too seriously.
Oh.
Like, I took it to my heart, and more than my heart, I took it to my soul. I cried like a baby. I whined every day that I took part in a contest. I'd go back home, I'd open my laptop, I'd watch a motivational video, and I'd cry. I'd cry. I'd look at some of the topmost champions in the world like Muhammad Ali, Kobe Bryant, Virat Kohli, MS Dhoni, Sachin Tendulkar, Ratan Tata, all of their videos on YouTube. And one constant message that I kept getting was, if you're seeing failure, we're going in the right way, right? So what would happen was that the heavy heart of my failure and the release of watching a motivational video would be so beautiful in synergy that someday I'd start. It's so funny, it's very funny when the viewer listens to this, but it is true. I'd put myself in their shoes. I'd want to feel like Muhammad Ali. Maybe I'm never going to be as great as him, or I don't know. But I'd put myself in his shoe and I'd try feeling every bit of what he'd feel when he was winning. Like I'd feel what I'd be feeling when I'm winning. Like it's a very, very deep-rooted feeling, and I was feeling that when I was 18. So I'd never run away from my failure. I'd go attack it, right? I would dive deeper into it, and I'd feel failure throughout and say, hey, it doesn't matter. Let me go on. And when I won that once, I'd go all out. I'd feel like I've won the entire world, So even that one win against 3 or 4 people, or against people who are no match to me, meant a lot to me, because it reinforced that I'm getting there. And eventually, it happened.
Beautiful. I think an excellent point made there, right? I mean, failure is only a failure when you treat it like a failure. I think, when you took it too seriously, I think that turned out to be something very, very positive, right?
Yes.
That's very, very, very awesome. Lovely. Awesome. Yes.
I have my same question to you, right? Now, even you've spoken so much about your initial days until 17, 18. I'm pretty sure even you would have faced some sort of failure as you transitioned into your degree life, and you would have had some learning lessons. What were those?
Learning lessons started, I think, when I was 17, 18. I think when we were first exposed to YouTube, right? So when I was exposed to YouTube, one of the things, again, I don't know why this was very much in common. I have this habit of watching motivational videos. And when it was motivational videos, one thing that I used to see was mostly about business owners. So at the age of 17 or 18, when I just completed my PU, if anyone asked me, one of the questions I was finding very difficult to answer was this question: what do you want to be when you become old? Right? Till my 10th, I managed answering table tennis player. But after my 12th, if I answered table tennis player, they used to tell, get serious in life. Sports and all you can pursue.
Correct.
No, that is not at all a possibility. So yes, that is when I decided, one fancy term, I will be an entrepreneur, right? And to be entrepreneur, what is the first thing that I did? When I entered my degree life, I went to Google, I did this search. 21 ways to start a new business without investment, with which we will get full returns, right? Because that is the time you will even struggle for pocket money.
Yeah.
So yes, I started off with an event management company, which actually said, easy to start, right? No investment required, but you get very good returns. So I started off as an event manager, and I did a couple of events. To be precise, only 2 events. One, the entire, it was for a wedding. The entire setup was done. I spent a few money after borrowing from a few people and all of these things. And just when it was about 1 week before the wedding got cancelled. Right? So that is the first time I was exposed to loan. 5 rupees, 6 rupees, 10 rupees, you take it from people, okay, you can return it. If it is a loan of about 6,000, 7,000 people at the age of 18, it becomes a very difficult task. I did not know how to manage that. So that was the first failure I ever faced, and that was the first hit bag. God's grace, I got the second event, with which initially I asked for an advance of exactly 7,000 rupees, I remember, because I had to pay back my debts, right? And yes, I made my first amount of money at that particular point of time. But over a period of time, it became a very difficult thing. Why? Because when I used to go to talk to people and mostly it was weddings that I was doing. When I used to go to talk to people, I was an 18-year-old, right? And an 18-year-old, when I used to tell I will manage all of the event and all of these things, it was very hard for them to believe. And yes, I completely understand. Tomorrow it's very difficult for me also to believe an 18-year-old. So since it became a little difficult part, I started exploring various opportunities, and I've also done network marketing, which was the in-trend thing in college times and all of these things. So network marketing also taught me a lot of things. I've earned money, I've lost money. And yes, I think one of the greatest accomplishments that I had in my college life was actually buying a Note 2 for myself. Till then, it was the basic set that I had. The first smartphone that I ever got was this Samsung Galaxy Note 2, and that is the first thing that I bought.
So what happened after that, Rutu? Like, I mean, you finished your degree. So what was the mindset like, and what did you do next?
Once I finished my degree, what I took up was chartered accountancy. Right? Because, I mean, money was something that I wanted very badly. And the sales advertisement that was done for becoming a chartered accountant by one of my close friends was this. Maga, once I get to choose a career, no, I will be a chartered accountant. Why? Because you just have to have a few people. They will do all the work for you. You just have to sign, because a chartered accountant sign will have super value. And once you keep on signing, you will keep on getting lakhs of rupees. Now you tell me, if you get such opportunity, will you tell her no? I'm like, okay, only 3 years is what I'll have to struggle. 3 years I'll struggle. So I took up chartered accountancy. That was the disaster of my life, right? Because everybody in my family were so proud. Oh, Rutu is doing CA. But I knew what was happening. God's grace, I cleared my initial entrance exam also. Right? Then came the intermediate exam, and that is when I decided, okay, I'm not doing anything else. Entrepreneurship is the thing for me. I'm not going to give up on entrepreneurship.
How did that happen, the entrepreneurship part?
Entrepreneurship part, let me be very frank, it is little embarrassing today, but that day it was not embarrassing. Somehow, I am a great supporter of RCB.
Okay.
Okay. RCB, when I am supporting, I also started supporting Dr. Vijay Mallya. I loved him as a beautiful business tycoon, right? The way he lived his life, there was some class, panache, and his style and all of these things. I was like, if there is one opportunity, I have to live like that fellow, right? Having properties, owning a team, and all of these things. So I was like, I have to be like that person. It was pure admiration that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And somehow I think after my, degree and in between the post-graduation time, I got a break when I became a director of one of the companies called as BME. Okay. So that office was in Brigade Road. And when I became the director of this company, I thought, okay, my life is settled. I was 23 by then. Thought my life is settled. Okay, this is what I'm going to be. 24, get married. 25, have kids. And then live life of a luxury. But again, whatever we think and whatever happens is completely different. So that is when I faced the next biggest failure. The director thing is not that people told I did not, the other directors did not tell, no, you are not eligible. But I itself told, I am a believer that in whatever we are doing, there must be happiness. So I was like, sorry, this is not my cup of tea. This is where I end my college days.
Oh,
okay. I want to listen to the last bit of your college days. You came to telling that you applied for the application and you got selected.
I did get selected in University of Limerick, Ireland. So there in Ireland, what happened was I was studying entrepreneurship and I was the youngest chap in the class. Wow. I was the only one who did not have any prior work experience. Right? Because usually in masters or in an MBA abroad, they take work experience, and even my course had about 2 years of work experience. But I still applied, and I had said I had 2 years of work experience to my coordinator who was checking my application. And she saw my age and she said, there's no way you can have 2 years experience, you're lying. During the interview, before I went to Ireland, this was. So then she asked, what do you mean by 2 years? And guess what? I had a justification for that. I said, ma'am, I have not just 2 years, but I have 3 years of experience. That was, the 3 years of experience comes from my student council. I have done everything from marketing, finance, and HR in student council. Because in the student union or student council in a college, you have 100, 120 people. You got to manage all of those guys. What you learn is people skills there, right? That's HR. Second, marketing. You got to go sit in front of an entrepreneur and ask him to give some sponsorship money. And you know entrepreneurs, they say they'll never give money into an 18-year-old. You yourself said that. So nobody gave me money. But as you know, I kept trying, and out of 100 people, 5 of them gave me money. So I somehow found out how to negotiate, how to sell myself, how to market myself. Finally, I learned finance. Once the money was given, it was not just few thousand; it was lakhs of money that a 19-year-old or a 20-year-old was managing. So I had to make sure accounts were there and everything was going well in place. Now, I considered those 3 years of experience as my actual job experience, and I'm pretty sure that even if you had put me against anybody who had been for a 3-year job, I'd somehow be marginally better. So I said this, and she was so impressed with my confidence. I don't know if she actually thought I was bullshitting, but she was so impressed with my confidence, she decided to give me a scholarship seat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I ended up getting like a 25-30% scholarship there. And my parents just could not believe it. My mom thought I was lying. She thought I'd forged the entire paper. But she took some time. She was also very happy. My father was very happy. I left abroad to study. The experience there, I don't want to talk much about it. I'll just take another line. The experience there was just one thing. Everything is based more on practical education than on theory. And there is a constant upgrade in the education system. Here it upgrades once in 20 years, or once in 20 years when the finance minister gets a few numbers in his bank account. Right? Like it's one of these things and nothing else. And I got one opportunity to meet all the class people of mine who are studying entrepreneurship with me. So I was studying Masters in International Entrepreneurship Management. All my class people came from such amazing experiences and backgrounds that I was able to learn from them. I was definitely not the best student there and a very average student, but enjoyed my time. And that is where I actually found out what I wanted to do in my life, or you could say for the rest of my life.
Awesome. Lovely. So what was your, in one sentence, if you have to say, what was your greatest learning till you were 23?
When I was in Ireland, 22.
Okay, 22. Till 22, what was your greatest learning?
I think one learning that I had already imbibed, but I later realized was the gift of consistency. There's something so magical about showing up. You know, you just got to show up, and eventually it'll happen. Right? It's just that you got to want it as bad. I think that's the secret that I knew. So I want to know your last bit too. I want to know what happened. You said you finished college, you went into chartered accountancy. Now, post this chartered accountancy, I know what you are right now. So what was the story of transition there?
Right, the story of transition was this. So basically, when I actually gave up that particular director position, my parents were very, very, very unhappy. Right, so yes, I too am a very pampered kid. And basically, I did not get the freedom like you've got, and but I still love to be that. Even till date, I get scoldings and all that, but I still like to be that little kid to my parents. Again, two different perspectives. So when I actually gave up this particular position, that is the day when my parents told, okay, we give up on you, do whatever you want. And that day they were very, very, very unhappy. So they were like, I don't think you will ever succeed in life. So this is the point where I felt very, very, very bad, because I am a person who believes in this particular thing. The only two people you have to be grateful for, or the only two people whom I admire more than God, are my parents. Why? Because of our parents only we are here. That is number one. Number two, whatever we think, whatever we feel, whatever we are doing today is because we have this life, and that is also because of our parents. So if they are unhappy, I think this is one of the worst things. So when this particular statement was made by my parents saying, we give up on you, do whatever you want in life, I don't think you will succeed. That is the day I decided, okay, whatever it is, I want to do something which will make my parents proud. Till date, like I told, I've been into table tennis and all of these things. I was never the one who maintained notes. But somehow on that particular day, I felt like writing everything that I am feeling, and I felt like venting it out. So when I was writing, I just wrote these 3 words: win world by love. Right? And decided, okay, whatever it is, we have to win world by love. And I started posting a few stories on my Facebook wall. When I started posting these few stories, initially, anything you do, when you put it on social media, the first thing you get is congratulations, nice. So for the first few blogs which I posted on my Facebook, I started getting pretty good responses. And one of my friend actually came up to me and he told, "Yeah, maga, full class notes ittavane alla. Now you're writing. Huh? What's wrong with you? Why don't you become an author in future?" And somehow, when people tell it to you mockingly or if people tell you seriously, you don't know. But if it gets into your heart, you really want to do.
True.
So that is the day I decided, okay, let me have at least one accomplishment. And this one accomplishment was, okay, let me sit with myself for 5 days. So I traveled on a solo trip for 5 days. And those 5 days is what I put it into a book, and that is what became In the Rhythm of Silence.
Wow.
So those stories is what I wanted to share to the world. And that is when I decided, okay, I am going to be a coach who's going to help people with transformation.
That's nice.
So this is where I came.
Okay.
And yes, I want to also listen, where did you come to this particular point of discovering your passion?
I don't think it was discovering my passion. I think it was a reflection that I had. When I was in Ireland, there was one specific contest that I took part in. It was called the Dragon's Den contest by Citibank. Now, when we went there, it was such a moment that I had already won my college level competition and gone on to represent University of Limerick along with a beautiful team of mine in the finals at Dublin. We did not just win the competition, but we were the most recognized simply because of our words. Of course, there was another, the team that did the chip got the incubation, but we were the highest scorers in terms of our presentation. So we automatically did win that contest. Wow. Right? So for the Citibank, they were the check holders. We were also the co-winners for the whole event. Now, this gave me a lot of validation for who I was. Right? I said, if we could do this, we can do so many more things. And that's when I had to decide to reject 2 jobs that I got in Ireland, 2 very well, highly paid jobs. Don't want to mention the companies here, but really, really reputed ones. And when I told my mother that I was rejecting those 2 jobs, she was disappointed with me for the second time. But rest as you know, I decided to take a one-way ticket back to Bangalore. And I came back against, you could say, a little bit of my parents' wishes and the rest of my peers' wishes, and decided to start my own company because of this reflection. The reflection was, how was it that Lalit was able to achieve so many things in the last 4 years? Because until he was 18, I myself considered myself a loser, and everybody else considered me as a loser. That's what I thought. In these 4 years, how could I win over 100 contests? How could I come to Ireland on a scholarship? How could I become the president of the student council? All these questions started coming up into my head. How was it possible? And then it hit me that everything that I did in my college life was what I did outside a classroom. None of my marks ever helped me to reach where I was. Because throughout my life, they were told me only because of marks you will become successful. But today, I had done everything outside my marks and I was successful. That's when I got to know that this was a very big secret that people should know. Like, the Indian students should know that this is the secret. And to share this secret is why I came back, Rutu. So, yeah, that's my story. Okay?
Awesome. So I think what I learned here was basically this particular thing. Like you told, you don't know how I became a leader. If you give me a permission, I just want to say, because of your mindset and your efforts. Like there is this saying, life always does not give you what you deserve. But life does not give you what you desire, but it gives you what you deserve.
True.
Right? So that is what happened.
Yeah. So Rutu, I think both of us have so much similarity in our stories, and we've traveled different paths, but the storyline is same. You said you decided to write a book on a solo trip. Now, a book is a great branding tool and a great add-on to who you are, but it need not be the first source of revenue. So where did you start making your actual bucks? Because you were also moved away from the directorship.
Wait, you just spoke about making money with passion?